Talk about a somber way to end an arc. That was some sad, heavy shit in the end. So I'm going to toss this out the gate, starting with this review. One of the things that I definitely was contemplating regarding, factoring in how this episode overall felt and overall what I would give it was Poof's death. Similar to Yuppie's death, he had just kind of like, we see him dead there. But the difference between when it bothered me with Yuppie was a semi-decent. There was something decent in him. He developed, he changed from just being like completely a ruthless piece of shit to there was something a little bit decent inside of him. He had some honor. He had some pride. Poof does, he doesn't have any redeeming qualities. I've been rooting for this dude to die, and I think the nature of his death, while it felt like, whoa, it should have been like somebody decapitates him or something. If anything, it is very ironic that with all of his efforts, every rotten thing he did to try to be next to the king, he was like sucking giant ball sacks to get next to the king. He ends up dying alone. And that in and of itself is the best justification for his death and a lot more meaningful for his death in a sense that sometimes you can do everything in your power, but if you're going about it the wrong way and if it's not meant to be, it's just not going to happen. And in the end, he died in the arms of the person that he really cared for, and it wasn't you, boy. The moment with Palm, it felt as though this episode had just started off from the very beginning with a very somber feeling, and to see just where these characters have moved from the beginning of this arc, from beginnings of this arc to where they're at now, like seeing the king going to the point of humbling himself, about to kneel just because he really wanted badly to get to Komugi. I mean, that speaks volumes of the character development and how much of a character he's changed. And I said it before in my last review, and I'll say it again. I honestly think Netero could have tried a little bit differently in his approach against the king. Instead of going straight into combat, maybe he could have talked things out, because at the end of the day, this emotion, this, I guess you could call it love, that he had for Komugi could have changed him completely to the point where he didn't, want to slaughter everybody, and maybe he would have actually changed, not completely, get rid of his Chimera form or, his Chimera ways, but ultimately it would have been enough where maybe he could have lived in society if Netero would have given him the opportunity. And with this episode, we see that Palm understands and identifies with the fact that she is indeed part Chimera at this point. She is indeed part ant. So even though she is trying to go along with the plan, at the end of the day, to see somebody that is basically the leader of her race bowing down to her to try to get this information, she breaks down. So you can definitely see the biology and just overall who she's become at this particular point had a toll in what happened. And ultimately she cared for him at the end of the day because she wanted so badly to see how it all ends with him, because she really did care. And she was split. Komugi was the side of where, her human side, and Meruem was her Chimera side in a sense, if you look at it from her point of view, just looking at both of them. And at the end of the day, it was just really beautiful. And I felt as though this episode had so much depth to it, more than meets the eye. It was somber. It was very sad. Some things felt like very casual in a sense, but it was necessary. Again, like Poof's death, it was necessary for him. In particular, for him to go out like that, that's exactly what he deserved. I mean, what, you want him to have this grand finale when he's such a piece of shit? No, die alone in the fucking wind like the piece of shit you were. Now knowing what I know regarding the manga, it seems as though they're switching things around, because seeing that disc with Netero on it, I think that was supposed to happen a little bit later. So now I'm starting to understand what people were telling me for so long, how they kind of like maneuver different events around within the manga, like something that was supposed to happen a little bit later happens earlier on. But definitely you can see that within this episode, while they were wrapping the Chimera Ant arc up, in the midst of it, you're slowly starting to see that we're progressing into the next arc already, but they're still trying to keep it grounded to, holy fuck, we just went through this incredibly devastating invasion. Kind of felt unnecessary to see, but I guess Togashi wanted us to know maybe this is going to have a greater impact at some given point in the series. The Supreme Leader was never really there to begin with. He's been retired for 30 years, and that was mainly a stand-in. I don't get what was the necessity of us like finding out that information. I mean, we know that the stand-in was supposedly dead or whatever, but it would have been just fine with him being dead. I don't get what was the reason for it, saying, oh no, he's been alive this entire time and he's been retired for 30 years. It kind of felt like maybe it was a commentary on, like, I guess, war, and when we claimed that we killed their leader, but all along their leader was, a stand-in. So maybe that could have been Togashi's thoughts on things of that nature. And hands down, I don't give a fuck what anyone says. This is probably going to be in one of my top 10 or top, at the very least it'll be like top 15, but it's looking like it could be top 10 deaths of all time in any anime, not just Hunter x Hunter, but just any anime in general. The way it was done, the way it was approached, the approach that they took, because this was done in the manga, the anime added little things, little subtleties that made it even more emotional and made it a little bit more impactful. Like, in the manga, it was just mainly black pages with text over it, and you still kind of felt that in the manga as well, because you've just been so close to these characters already, and you've seen how much they've changed and how much they've grown close together, the king and, or Meruem. I don't want to call him the king anymore. I felt it's appropriate at this point that I always address him as Meruem. Meruem and Komugi, you see that their bond has gotten so strong. You just see the black paper, with the dialogue. In the anime, you get to see that little thing. It's like a fly or something just flying around, giving you a little bit of light, seeing little subtleties, seeing her hand, and then it just kind of transforms from one scene to the next with that powerful ending. And just talking about it, I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting fucking emotional, but I don't want to be a bitch. I already cried like in the past couple weeks on one video. I don't want to do that anymore. But that was just a phenomenal ending, beautifully done. Togashi, like, I never in a million years would have thought that the arc would have ended that way. And just that one scene that finally got me when I was watching the episode that made me break down was when you finally see that the king saying, Ichi ni Ichi, Komugi, are you there? And then he finally, I gotta go to sleep now. Oh my god, just talking about that was fucking amazing. Overall, this episode, again, the one thing that I was thinking was the poop stuff, but in essence, that's exactly what he gets, and that's what he deserves, and it's ironic, and it fits perfectly. 10 out of 10. Beautifully done. Again, I never thought I would see it go out this way, and honestly, this arc really had a lot of different commentaries on humanity itself as well. Not only just we have this invasion of these ants, but people can be monsters a lot of times. This was very reminiscent of something like, if you ever seen the anime Shiki, it really just shows that people can be fucked up, and it's not always the case with the ants. I mean, at the end of the day, Netero's bomb, while Netero felt he was doing the right thing, he killed, one person, and ultimately Komugi wanted to go with him. That had a beautiful relationship there, and maybe things could have been different, but beautiful stuff, 10 out of 10. that final scene was phenomenal. It was just really impactful and very different, to say the least. But let me know what you thought of this episode. Did you cry at that end? I ain't gonna lie, when I saw Komugi, that shit just, that was right there where the tears just, I couldn't hold it anymore. And, you get the feeling in your nose right here, and it's like, I couldn't hold it anymore. Just fucking seeing the development with these characters and seeing how much they've grown, and the bond right there. That's a fucking bond. That is like, Beauty and the Beast ain't got shit on Komugi and Meruem. Nothing. That is beauty right there. And just overall thoughts of the episode. The finale of the Chimera Ant arc. I believe this was close to 60 episodes. This was like damn near almost half of the anime we've been with this arc. And to finally see its conclusion, while everything wasn't perfect regarding this arc, there were some things here or there. For the most part, this ending was definitely something different, something unique, and very powerful, and it made every little subtlety of the series have some sort of impact or have some sort of important and relevance. Like Netero, the decision that he had to make when he was going up against Meruem, the bomb, a lot of different things, Palm, everything just kind of came together really nicely for this ending that was just tear-worthy. But that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, you can do so as well. That'd be awesome. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, Hunter x Hunter for the motherfucking win.